this show today is going to be the Interbike TV show here, is going to be all about electric bikes, and I've got three guests who are experts in everything electric, and I'm going to introduce them in a second, but we have Ed Benjamin from Benjamin Consulting, we have David Cabanban from Sanyo, and we have Robrady from Robrady Design. I'm pronouncing that right, yeah?
Robrady.
Robrady.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry, from Robrady Design. So I'm going to ask each guest to introduce themselves to tell you who they are. So Ed, fire away.
Thanks, Carlton. I'm a longtime bicycle guy, ex-bike racer, most of my life working in the American bike business. Got focused on electric bicycles in 1996 and have been consulting in that ever since. Today, I'm also chairman of the Light Electric Vehicle Association, which is I think we have 120 members in 17 nations, people focused on the electric bicycle business.
Okay, and lever? How do you pronounce this?
We usually just say L-E-V-A.
Okay. Describe that a bit more. How many members do you have?
I think we have 120 members at this point, 17 different nations. Most of the members are manufacturers or distributors of electric bicycles. The core production is in Asia. The sales and market, the market for the product is in the United States and in Europe and in Japan and in Asia, of course. So we have a very diverse group.
And you also do, is it two yearly market report on electric bikes?
Yes, the electric EBWR, Electric Bicycles Worldwide Reports, is published every 2 years by Dr. Jamerson and myself, and that is a state of the industry report.
And how long has that been going there, Ed?
Oh, since 1994.
So you've seen some growth since then?
Yeah, things have changed so much, it's hard to believe.
Okay. If we could turn now to David from Sanyo. Tell us a bit about yourself, David.
I'm the Business Development Manager for Sanyo North America for the Environmental and Biomedical Division. The N-Loop Bicycle project I'm in charge of in North America. And I've been in the bicycle industry for quite a long time. I think I started in '76 working in shops. Like Ed, I was a former racer. I was a Category 1 sprinter. Spent a lot of time calling on a variety of different retailers as a salesperson and marketing person. And I've been with Sanyo for about 6 months.
Were you brought on for the bike project?
Correct. I was the first hire for the new environmental division, and the bicycle falls under the environmental division for Sanyo because of our environmental focus.
Now, in the US, the Sanyo bike is different to what we're going to be getting in Europe. Can you explain a bit about that, how the bikes are bikes here and under the Sanyo brand name, but in Europe it's going to be the motors and the battery only? One of the reasons we decided to do that was because the European market is much more saturated with manufacturers that have experience in electric bikes than Sanyo does in Europe. And so we elected to go only with parts to start. But I'm sure as we build traction in North America, we'll bring product over there. We're working on a global concept. We are quite a large electric bike manufacturer in Japan. We're actually the third largest manufacturer of electric bikes in Japan. We've been manufacturing electric bikes in Japan for the last 15 years. Little known fact that Sanyo was started in 1947. Our first product was a bicycle light generator. So the commitment to the bicycle goes all the way back to our founding. The environmental aspect of our business has pretty much permeated everything that we do for about the last 7 years. And we do feel that the bicycle makes an impact on the environment significantly, particularly the electric bicycle. I'd like to get onto green issues in a moment, but just as you've touched on that, tell us a little bit about the actual charging station, the solar panels, the HIT solar panels you have, which kind of makes, you're not plugging in and burning coal to power electric bikes potentially in the future. We're going to be from the burning sun. So tell us about that.
Part of our Think Gaia concept at Sanyo incorporates solar panels. As you mentioned, our HIT double-sided HIT panel is the most efficient mass-produced solar panel. We have an efficiency rating of 23%. And what we've done is we're incorporating that and some of our other solar panels into a small unit that independent bicycle dealers are able to buy in a fairly small array to put in front of their shop to charge electric bicycles. It makes a great statement as far as marketing. Environmentally friendly. It's a visible site that your customer can either walk through the door and see. It can be right next to the door. And it basically infers that you are ecologically minded, and that you have made a commitment financially. And carrying electric bikes is something that I think a lot of dealers are going to take a look at this year. The traction is coming. Sanyo being a global company, we see what's happening around the world. We have offices basically in every country around the world, so we know what's happening.
Okay, and talking about other countries around the world, if I can now introduce Rob. Tell us where you're from, Rob, and your expertise in electric bikes now.
Well, thanks a lot, Carlton. I'm the design director, CEO of Robrady Design. We're located in Sarasota, Florida, and we've been around for just about 19, almost 20 years now. We specialize in a lot of different types of product development, but our favorites happen to be the development of electric. And with electric vehicles, you're always trying to humanize the vehicle and trying to get the person and the technology meshed up properly. Our background actually is in more high-speed electric vehicles. We have an award-winning super bike that we did, does about 135 miles an hour. We are the design firm with Vectrix electric scooter. It's about a 62-mile-an-hour scooter. It's the only scooter in the world that's a maxi scooter that's legal on any road in the world. And so we've had a lot of enjoyment with developing electric products that you ride, transportation-wise. We've done a lot of work with Segway, as an example. So we've taken all that technology, experience, and what have you, and we've now moved it into the bicycle arena. And I guess we're relatively new to this market. We've been into it for about a year, with regards to bikes. But we've been in the electric vehicle market, the design market, for quite some time.
Well, on that point, where if you've come from if you've done motorbikes and other electric vehicles, let's go on to what is an electric bike. How do you classify something when when is it not a moped? When is it not a scooter? When is it not a motorbike? And a bicycle, of course, has all these benefits of you can go on bike paths, you don't need mandatory helmet laws, you don't need a driver's license. So Ed, what is an e-bike? What is an electric bike? What is a pedelec? What are all these confusing terms?
Well, the simplest way to think about it is they're bicycles with an electric component in their transmission. But various countries have different laws, but they basically add up to the same thing. If an electric bike meets a certain power and speed and human energy component, then it's a bicycle. It's not a moped, it's not an electric assisted powered bicycle, it's a bicycle. And this is a very sweet deal for the electric vehicle industry and for the person who uses it, because a bicycle is a very privileged vehicle. You can use the bike path, you can use the roadway, you probably won't get in trouble on the sidewalk. You don't need a driver's license, no helmet, no insurance card. It's a very privileged vehicle. In the United States, if you have a motor that has less than 750 watts of power, goes an assisted speed of 20 miles an hour max, and has functioning bicycle-style pedals so that the human power component can be added, it's a bicycle. And it's administered not by the Department of Transportation, but by the Consumer Product Safety Commission, just like bicycles. Now, other countries, the rules are a little bit different, but the end result is the same. If it meets their requirements, then it's a bicycle. And for the bicycle market, we're seeing that consumers are starting to see it the same way. They see it as a bicycle that has an electric component to the transmission. The electric component makes the bicycle very easy to pedal. Bicycles that are very easy to pedal are popular.
David, on the point Ed was making there, which was the US regulations, which are very different to the European regulations on wattage, the power of these things. In effect, your bicycle is underpowered for a US market where it's almost 3 times you could be higher powered if you wanted to. How do you see that fitting into the US marketplace? Because your bike basically fits European and Japanese legislation and is way under US. So where do you see it fitting in?
Well, I think with most automobiles and in transportation in general, Americans are infatuated with speed. Okay, and when I go out and I talk to people, the first thing they say is, how fast does it go? And you tell them if you tell them 15 miles an hour, they don't have perspective, because most of them haven't ridden a bicycle at 15 miles an hour ever. So when they get on our bicycle and they get to 15 miles an hour, the first thing they say is, it's fast. So their paradigm shifts when they try the product. And that's kind of the one of the things that we know through our research. If you get on a bike for the first time and you go 20 miles an hour and you've never gone 15 miles an hour on a bicycle, what do you think the sensation is going to be? It's going to be terror. And so that's kind of our philosophy behind it. And we've kind of looked at what a customer would really like, and it's they want to be able to have it feel like a bicycle. And that's where Sanyo has really perfected it. And we really stand out in that. So when people try electric bikes, they need to look at a variety of them and see what the ride quality is, how it feels to them. And if they can accept a particular ride quality, they should go with that.
Now, your bicycle doesn't have a throttle. You don't press a button and off you go. So let's just make that distinction. This is a bicycle where it's pedal assist.
Correct. And basically what it does is you get on it. The learning curve is about 1 second. It feels like the first time you ever rode a bicycle, and someone gave you a push to get you started. That's exactly what this bicycle feels.
Integrated tailwind, I think,
Exactly.
the way of looking at it. Rob, with your extra power hat on,
Yes.
Where do you see the market going? Do you see the market going more US, more power, more speed?
You know, I don't think so. And I echo what David's saying about the sensation. You know, as a designer, we're looking to always apply ergonomics to the work that we do, and humanizing the technology is a great piece. So numerically, when you say 15, you're thinking Corvette, you're thinking other Ferrari, you're thinking, I want to be doing 60, 70 miles an hour. The true sensation at 15 is fantastic on a bicycle, 20, terrifying, and things like that. And plus, you're not on a big roadway and things like that with a tremendous amount of plastic or metal around you. So I think the speeds are fine, and I think it really comes down to the features, attributes, benefits that designers can put into the product to enhance the experience. I happen to think it's going to be growing. I come from Florida. We have a number of retirees in that community, and I can see the electric bikes being extremely popular in certainly in the Sun Belt areas.
Let's go on to the demographics. And Ed, who are buying electric bikes now, and who are going to be buying electric bikes in the future? Because there are some bikes on the market, like the Go Cycle from the UK, which is a very trendy, futuristic looking bicycle, which perhaps might not go for the 60-year-old demographic. Do you think we're going to see a younger demographic coming onto electric bikes? And does that have to be via design or just market penetration?
Well, if we look at the market worldwide, we can say that the usual buyer is a woman. She's usually buying transportation. And this is very different from what has happened in the United States until very recently. Maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, the typical buyer in the United States was male, more than 40, and he was buying a toy. Now, one of the things we've seen shifting recently is that the Americans are thinking in terms of transportation. And this is, I think, very good news for the bicycle industry, and it's wonderful news for the electric bicycle industry. Worldwide, the electric bicycle is usually a transportation tool. It allows you to live farther from the train station. It allows you to get to work without being sweaty. You don't need a parking place for it. It will fit inside your apartment. So electric bikes and transportation, and frequently transportation for women. You know, my observation is that women are very pragmatic about their transportation needs. Men might be intrigued by macho image or what does this make me look like, and the woman wants a good vehicle. And so I was pleased to learn that this trend is 80% in China. 80% of the initial buyers are women. In the United States, I understand that now it's more than half. So we're seeing the same trend here. The volume tends to be surprising. One of the questions that I field all the time is people say to me, Ed, you're in the electric bike business. Wow, that must be tough. There's not much happening. And this always causes me to chuckle because I'm in the worldwide electric bike business, and the worldwide electric business this year is probably a total of about 24 million pieces.
And how many of those are pedal assist, and how many of those are throttle?
The bulk of them are throttle because the bulk of the sales are in China. In China, we will see about 21 million, almost all throttle-controlled bikes. But the only other market for throttle-controlled bikes of any size is the United States. The pedelec, you must pedal for the motor to run, is a very popular paradigm. It's the original paradigm, so to speak, and that the Yamaha patent in 1994 introduced this to Japan. This idea is a good idea. Take the high torque, low speed human motor and add it to a low torque, high speed electric motor. The high torque human motor gets tired. The electric motor doesn't get tired, but you have from an
It gets tired when it runs out of juice.
but it doesn't hurt while it's doing it.
Okay.
And the result is a very efficient vehicle and a very sensible vehicle. And so I have a lot of admiration for the kind of philosophy that's behind the European and the Japanese pedelec. It's a really good idea. And one of the things that I'd like to observe is that people who enjoy riding bicycles like pedelecs. They control the speed with their legs, just like they do on their bicycle. But the user it doesn't come from that background. And here's a very important point for the American bike industry. Most Americans are not bicycle riders. Most Americans think that sweating is bad. Most Americans, when their heart rate gets up, it scares them. And their thighs are not this big. They're not ex-bike racers. So when you say to these people, we got a motor, they think that's a great idea. But the people in the American bike industry, we're ex-bike racers, we like to sweat, we go riding for exercise, and so do our customers. And we tend to forget that the majority of Americans are not our customers. The majority of Americans are not interested in the exercise potential of the bicycle the way we are. So you take this this paradigm of I'm going to control the speed with my feet. Bicycle riders love it. And then you go to a guy or a gal who has never ridden a bicycle more than, maybe she's ridden it or he's ridden it 24 times in their life. For them, the throttle makes an awful lot of sense. Mm-hmm. Now, that describes most of America. And so what we're seeing is, what my observation is, that American consumers, if you ask them, do you prefer a throttle or a pedal-controlled machine, they'll say, I prefer a throttle. If they ride it very much, they will often decide later that, well, the pedelec, the pedal-controlled system is really very sweet. I like this a lot. But the current customer of the American bike shop is probably, in my opinion, going to have a better reaction to a pedal-controlled bike. That's going to be the bicycle rider is going to like that bike. The person who's not a bicycle rider is going to like the idea of a throttle. In my opinion, a bicycle shop should be offering both.
For sure.
Well,
David, you want?
Just to touch on that fact, I believe that the customer doesn't know what they want. And so they're asking the wrong questions. They ask, how fast does it go, when they should be asking, a different question. They ask, how far can it go on a single charge? Well, it's really not that relevant. You need to flip the question, and you need to say, how far do you need it to go? And he's shaking his head because this is through our research, and this is what the customer needs to be educated. And a big part of my marketing strategy with a lot of my customers is putting together a program of education. When you go into a bike shop, what do you ask for when you're looking for an electric bike? What do you need to do before you actually go into that bike shop? You need to drive the route to work. You need to get the distance on it. You have to look at the bike path scenario. There's a lot of there's some material out there, some educational material that will help us with that. And I think that education for the dealers and education for the customers is going to be very, very important, and it's a big part of my strategy.
Do you think a lot of the sales of electric bikes are hindered in certain markets by just lack of bicycle infrastructure? So
Absolutely.
The UK hasn't really taken off in a huge way. US so far hasn't taken off in the same way as in the Netherlands and Germany, whereas in those two countries it's skyrocketing, and that's because of the existing infrastructure. So how much of that is hindering the market? Rob, do you want to?
Well, I was going to add into that as a designer, we do a lot with voice of customer and surveys and focus groups and things like that. And what we hear and what we begin to term this is people asking gas questions about an electric product. And so they're used to asking those type of questions. And I don't know if it's come up yet, but it's a big question that everyone asks is range. and they're expecting to, they need to go hundreds and hundreds of miles to feel secure, when the reality, when you do the survey and you start to talk about it, you realize that, you know, certainly with all the new electric cars that are coming out, they're only going to go 40 miles. When you start to look at most of the profile of American mainstream, that actually works. So I think there's going to be a bit of a paradigm shift over the next couple of years as more and more electric products come out and we start to ask more electric questions about electric products.
Rob, do you see the future continuing with lithium-ion batteries? Do you see any, with your
From my
futuristic
perspective,
hat on, any other technologies that could come forward there?
You know, my greatest friends are scientists, engineers, because they're giving me the tools to make completely new paradigm shifts in the products that we design. Lithium ion seems to be the holy grail that everyone's trying to get to. It works in certain configurations for certain products, but as the demand gets bigger, that is the envelope of what you want to carry. It's hit and miss. Where most of the products we have done previously were nickel metal because of the reliability factor, the technology readiness level, the maturity of the lithium ion in a lot of the bigger applications are yet to truly be realized. It's a tricky process. It's tricky to monitor, to pull all the energy out efficiently, but it's just a matter of time. Lithium, of course, I think, you know, from a power to weight ratio, there's just so many benefits. I'm sure that's the way we're going.
But of course, electric cars, which are meant to be perhaps one of the next big things in transport, if we're to believe the pundits, they're going to use an awful lot of lithium ion. Are the bikes going to be able to get their hands? Maybe David, is Sanyo going to be able to get its hands on enough lithium ion? Considering this is a finite resource, it's another, you know, gas running out scenario potentially.
It's just like any other resource. Resources are limited. You have to conserve them. You have to look at how they can be used, and you have to look into the future. But the thing with battery technologies is they're always working on new technologies. I know Sanyo, being the largest rechargeable battery manufacturer in the world, we have a very heavy R&D program around the world. So it's not something that I fixate on, and again, because I know new technologies will come.
Ed?
I think that he said it very well. And I'd like to point out that the battery technologies we're excited about today seemed unreachable 10 years ago and way too expensive 5 years ago. And now they're solidly in the everyday use. And batteries, there's a lot of lithium in the world. I don't think it's a really serious concern immediately. And by the time we're running short of lithium, there'll be something else that works better.
Okay. Now, electric bikes are coming to the fore in the media a lot more. How many bikes do you think we're going to be selling in the next 10 years, electric? Size of market, because out here on the show floor at Interbike, there's one poster saying electric bikes are going to rule the world. So how worried or how excited should the traditional bike trade be by electric bikes? Should we, I know you're going to be your answer here, all of you, but should we be embracing e-bikes, or should the bike trade be thinking, well, this could actually usurp us?
Well, let me answer that by telling you what's been happening in Holland. Holland is a bicycle place. And what the Dutch, I think initially the Dutch bicycle retailers were hesitant about electric bicycles. And today they find that their customers like the bikes a lot, and that more than 1 out of every 4 bicycles sold in Holland today is electric. But here's a very interesting number. More than half of all the cash that comes into the bicycle shop comes from electric. Another interesting number, they get their margin on an electric bike. They don't, you know, the normal bicycle business is extremely competitive, narrow margin, everybody's struggling to make a living. Along comes electric bikes with 30-40% margins that there's no competition in your town. And getting your margin is easy. And by the way, it's not the, you know, today's bicycle is very reliable. Bike industry's done a great job, but it really hurts the service department. When I started working in bike shops, half of our money came from the service department. Now they don't, not anymore. But the electric bicycle, people put more miles on it. They need tires, they need tubes, they need repairs, they need the wheels relaced because they wore out the wheel, and they're going to need a new battery at some point. And all of this is wonderful news for the service department. We make money in the service department. We can sell the bike, it's a bigger ticket. We can get our full margin on it. It's like okay, and it's made by the bicycle companies. It's a win for the maker, it's a win for the distributor, it's a win for the retailer, and at the end of the day, the consumer's got a bike that's easier to pedal and more fun to ride.
Sanyo's on a bicycle company though, so Sanyo's
Sanyo started in the bicycle business.
Coming in and muscling in. Should we be worried about Sanyo?
We have senior management commitment to this project, and we understand that the bicycle is a gateway. We will most likely be the largest automobile battery manufacturer in the world very shortly, and people have to understand the technology. Like you said earlier, when I went to Japan, I told the Japanese, your technology is useless. They looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I said, until you get people to adopt it, it is absolutely useless. Our jobs up here is to help people adopt technology. We are on a mission, all of us. And it's to help people understand the technology. And I wouldn't say that people should be afraid of Sanyo. I think that they should look at us seriously. We are bringing new ways of doing business to the marketplace. We bring a scalability to the market that I don't think anyone else in the industry offers.
Okay. Rob, on design, I don't want to be rude about any particular electric bike manufacturer, and I'm certainly not going to be rude about Sanyo because I'm not lumping Sanyo in on this. But there are a fair few electric bikes out there that are ugly, aren't as svelte as they could be. Yeah, my words. And perhaps some consumers would go for them, but the majority probably won't because they're still a bit, they're not that attractive. A bicycle is slim, attractive. Now, do you think, and I can see it coming, for the Giant, for instance, has got a bicycle with the electronics and the batteries integrated into the bicycle in a beautiful way. So can design and can miniaturization basically in, say, 2 years' time, create a bicycle where you could be out riding, an enthusiast cyclist could be out riding and wouldn't know the person overtaking him on the hill is riding an electric bike. Everything hidden.
You know, I think you can see that in some of the products. You know, when during my intro, you could see the work that we're doing with DK City. We're starting with a white sheet of paper, and I think more designers that have a white sheet of paper at the beginning of a product can embed the systems, can integrate them, and make them look as very, very purposeful. Early bikes, let's say electric motorcycles, an example, they look pregnant with big square boxes all over them. Now they're much more sleek and integrated. It really comes down to the bike manufacturers embracing the designers to say, here's a white sheet of paper, here are the systems, here are the parameters, let's see what you can come up with. And I'm always going to err on the side of American or global, let's just put global creativity of designers to be able to solve just that problem. So the answer to your question is, yeah, I think it'll be a great thing to see is a number, you know, seeing some of these races with some of these guys on electric bikes and not really knowing if it is in fact electric.
Ed, how about your take on that? And we're going to have to be quick, we've got 1 minute left.
Well, there are bikes now that it's hard for you to tell that it's an electric bike. And I think that the market is divided into two groups. The people who don't want you to know they're on an electric bike because it makes them look old or weak, and the people who are very proud of their electric bike. And we can see that in the product offerings here.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Ed Benjamin, David Cabanban, and Rob Brady. And that was the BikeBiz Bike Show on Interbike TV, produced by Inside Cycling TV. Thanks ever so much for watching, and carry on coming through to Inside TV.